closest approach to the sun on October 29th. That's when this object 3I Atlas was within a distance of 203 million kilometers from the sun. It received about 770 watts of solar irradiation power per square meter. So that's the point in its path where it gets heated the most. And indeed, there was a detection of it getting quite bright, much brighter than before, by a factor of 5 or so, by various solar observatories that looked at it, even though it was hidden from view from Earth, because the Earth was on the opposite side of the sun when it was closest to the sun. Maybe for a good reason. It's not clear whether it's natural or technological. But at any event, these observatories noticed that it became bluer than the sun, which is quite unusual because usually comets shed the dust that makes them red, or they have a surface temperature that is much cooler than the surface temperature of the sun, and therefore they appear redder than the sun. And nevertheless, 3I Atlas became bluer than the sun, which is surprising. But most interestingly, there was a deviation from the trajectory that it should have taken if its path was shaped by gravity alone. So there was some non-gravitational acceleration that it exhibited. If it's a natural comet, that is a consequence of it getting evaporated. And I did a simple calculation that showed that it must have lost at least a tenth of its mass in that process in order to get the reported level of acceleration. And that is a substantial fraction of its mass. It's most likely even 20%. That's just a lower limit. And that means that if it's a natural comet, there should be a very massive cloud of gas around it. And we are starting to get now new images of 3I Atlas. And if it were a familiar comet with the characteristics of a comet where it sheds dust and gas, that dust and gas should have been swept backwards away from the sun by the solar radiation and the solar wind. However, those images that were just released today, they don't show a cometary tail. They just show a blob of light, a fuzz of light around it, the way we saw when it was far away from the sun. And so the question is, what is this object? Why is it behaving so differently than solar system comets? I put in my latest essay, just for comparison, the image from the same telescope that observed it today. 2 days ago, it looked at a solar system comet named Lemon. And for Lemon, you can easily see a beautiful cometary tail being, pointing away from the sun. In the case of 3I Atlas, nothing of that nature. And so it's still, it's still anomalous in some ways. And, before the anomalies that captured my interest were that it appeared to be big, at least 1 million times more massive than the first interstellar object from outside the solar system. And moreover, it was going in the plane of the planets around the sun. So perhaps that trajectory was designed by some intelligence. That was my thinking. And since then, we noticed that, it sheds a lot of nickel, but very little iron, which is unusual, anomalous. And the only other place where we find that is in industrial production of nickel alloys. So maybe that's a technological signature. It showed unusual polarization. It came from the same direction as the WOW signal that was discovered in 1977, a radio signal that is still enigmatic. We don't know what the source is, but they were within 9 degrees of each other. And the question is, were they related? Was this signal related to 3I Atlas in any way? So there are lots of anomalies. I listed about 10 of them by now, but we still...
It's fascinating. It's fascinating also because it's made almost entirely of nickel, whatever it is. And the only way that exists here is industrial alloys, apparently.
There are definitely comets and asteroids that are made primarily of nickel.
Really?
Yeah. So the places where you mine nickel on Earth is actually where there was an asteroid or comet that hit Earth that was a nickel-rich,
Wow, and it left
nickel-rich
a giant
meteorite.
nickel-rich deposit?
Yeah, that's it's coming. Those are from impacts. So you definitely didn't want to be there at the time because anything would have been obliterated.
Right.
But that's where the sources of nickel and cobalt are these days.
So this is Avi Loeb. A few hours ago, the first hint of non-gravitational acceleration, that something other than gravity is affecting its acceleration, meaning something is affecting its trajectory beyond gravity, was indicated. Interesting. Dun, dun, dun. So it's mostly nickel, very little iron, which he was saying is on Earth, it only exists in alloys. But whatever, you're dealing with another planet.
There are cases where there's very nickel-rich asteroids, meteorites that
And that's what it is,
hit
for something
Earth.
from space.
Yeah, it's only
Yeah.
it doesn't mean it'll be a very sort of heavy spaceship if you make it all out of nickel.
Oh, yeah. And
so-
fucking huge. The size of Manhattan and all nickel, that's kind of nuts.
Yeah, that's a heavy spaceship.
That's a real problem if it hits.
Yes. No, it would like obliterate a continent type of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe worse.
Yeah, probably kill most of human life, if not all of us.
I haven't looked. It depends on what the total mass is, but there's. I mean, the thing is, like in the fossil record, there are, there's like arguably 5 major extinction events. Like the biggest one of which is the Permian extinction, where almost all life was eliminated. That actually occurred over several million years. There's the Jurassic. I think Jurassic is. I think that one's pretty definitively an asteroid. But there's been 5 major extinction events. But what they don't count are really the ones that merely take out a continent. So
Merely?
yeah, because those don't really show up on the fossil record,
Right.
So unless it's enough to cause a mass extinction event throughout Earth, it doesn't show up in a fossil record that's 200 million.
System. Take a look at this. This is 3I Atlas. You know how the last time we talked about it, it went behind the sun, then it got brighter, then it got bluer, then it started to go faster, non-gravitational acceleration? Well, guess what? We just got new images of it, and to add some more strangeness to the 3I Atlas saga, because, I don't want to overhype this, but yeah, you see, that's a comet. It does not have a very big, very noticeable cometary tail. That's what we were thinking we were going to see. So let's get straight over to Harvard astronomer, Professor Avi Loeb, the world-renowned expert on all these things, all things interstellar. Professor, the last time we spoke, which was like the day before yesterday, you were saying that when it went behind the sun, the natural explanation for the non-gravitational acceleration and the thrust might be because it burned off a bunch of chemicals or something, and that was giving it the thrust to the tune of like 13%, and we would see a humongous tail maybe. What is going on?
Yeah, that's very surprising because there should have
Over 4 decades, SETI has scanned the skies in search of meaningful transmissions, logging and analyzing thousands of unusual bursts of static, pulsar noise, and satellite interference. But this signal stood apart from the rest. It did not arrive randomly. It repeated. Even more surprising, the signal's modulation patterns carried unmistakable traces of structure, as if encoded language had been woven into its intervals. Scientists who compared it to traditional codes like Morse noted the resemblance, but stressed that it was far more complex, with levels of organization beyond any natural explanation. The first press briefing revealed how extraordinary this find was. Dr. Lena Romani, an astrophysicist from Berkeley, who had long collaborated with SETI, addressed the world. Her voice trembled as she described the phenomenon. She admitted that it was unlike anything the Institute had ever encountered, and acknowledged that the patterns bore the unmistakable hallmarks of intelligence. She stopped short of drawing absolute conclusions, but made it clear the discovery was far beyond ordinary space noise. Then the stream abruptly cut off mid-question and never returned. Viewers initially thought it was a technical glitch, but when the press conference vanished entirely without follow-up, unease began to spread. Make sure you subscribe now to stay updated as we cover this story in real time. 2 days later, on the 7th of June, an anonymous user on an underground forum posted what they claimed was an internal NASA briefing document. While the source seemed questionable, the file contained technical data that was far too elaborate to dismiss.
I guess so.
I mean, it
right.
just 'cause sort of that's
right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Also, it seems to have started its voyage 8,000 years ago.
Wow.
They say, which is about when we started using technology on Earth, which may have been what intrigued them to this. There certainly have been a lot of instances in the last 5 years where even the military is saying we see things of a nature we can't explain
We can't explain or replicate.
or replicate.
Yeah.
Now, it could be China having technology we don't. I don't think that's the likely scenario. It's possible. Everything's possible. But, I mean, this thing is supposed to be here in a couple of months
Oh,
after its 8,000-mile journey.
wow. That's quite the road trip. You right? What,
mean,
what do you think? It's supposed to collide? It's supposed to land? It's supposed to...
Oh, it's not supposed to do anything, but it's just...
Or it's been
the-
predicted that that's...
Well, I mean, this is not just me. These are some Harvard physicists
Right.
saying this.
Its
That
trajectory-
There is definitely something that is heading toward Earth. It could be a comet, but it is not acting like a comet or looking like a comet. So what is the conclusion? I mean, it sounds to me like a 12-mile long UFO.
Right.
At 12 miles fits a lot of people in the Trojan horse. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I'm glad we're doing this now.
You and me both. Jesus.